Xiaomi is out to take on the iPhones with their newest flagship, the Xiaomi 17 Pro Max. This phone has a lot to offer, but still, does it have what it takes to compete against the other Pro Max out there? I'm Will Gove for GSM Arena, and let's find out in our Xiaomi 17 Pro Max review. Xiaomi has switched up its naming scheme this time around, coming out with the Xiaomi 17 Pro Max. Sounds pretty similar to another popular flagship. However, this Pro Max is quite different, and not only because it's an Android phone. The island on the back is not just for the cameras, it houses a whole second screen. There are a bunch of other nice features here too, including a large main display, a cutting-edge chipset, a huge battery, fast charging, and a high-end camera setup, which includes a 5x zoom and a new selfie camera. Before we move on, I should mention that for now, this phone is only sold in the Chinese market, and we bought it directly from there. Plans about global availability aren't clear yet, but you can get the phone as a gray import if you're willing to make some concessions, which we'll get to in a bit. Besides that second screen, the looks of the Xiaomi Pro Max are quite similar to what you might expect from an iPhone. There's a flat back made of fiberglass and a flat aluminum frame, all with a matte finish that's hard to smudge. And despite the phone's large battery, it doesn't feel bulky, and it weighs about the same as other current flagships. You get IP68 rated ingress protection here, and it's better than usual, rated against water submersion to a depth of 6 meters. Let's go ahead and see what this second screen is all about. It's an LTPO OLED screen with a 120Hz refresh rate like you get on the front, just this one is small at 2.9 inches. It provides plenty of functionality. One thing it can do is alert you for a call, and you can answer the call directly from this screen itself. In general, you get something like your typical lock screen, with a clock and access to notifications. You can customize this screen with your own photos or text to make it yours. Or you can take a screenshot of anything at all, like an image or some text, and pin that onto the second screen. There's also support for a number of animated pets, powered by AI. They're pretty cute, and bound to turn some heads. The secondary screen can be used to show timers. You can control them from here too. And when you play certain media, like songs on Spotify, you get info and album covers, and of course media controls too. There is some support for gaming on this screen too, but it requires you to use a specific custom phone case with buttons to use as controls. But perhaps the most useful of this screen's functions is the ability to control the rear cameras with an in-depth camera interface. You can switch between the 3 rear cameras, go into portrait or photo collage modes, and adjust camera settings. This viewfinder can also be used if you're taking a picture of someone else so they can see themselves while posing in the frame. Moving on to the 17 Pro Max's main screen. Like I mentioned, it's again an LTPO OLED, but this time it's a 6.9-inch one, protected by Xiaomi's Dragon Crystal 3 glass. You get thin bezels, great sharpness, and features like 12-bit color depth and support for HDR10+ and Dolby Vision video playback too. Both the front and rear panels are matched when it comes to brightness, and the performance is solid. In manual mode, we recorded a little over 600 nits, which was able to boost to over 1020 nits in automatic brightness mode, and it was able to get even brighter than that in smaller areas of the screen. And with a 120Hz refresh rate, swiping and scrolling on both of the 17 Pro Max's displays is quite smooth to the eye. And thanks to LTPO tech, this refresh rate can dial down as low as 1 Hz when the screen is idling to save power. For audio, the phone has a pair of stereo speakers. They earned a score of good for loudness, and the audio quality here is some of the best we've heard. Tracks are clean and full sounding, with prominent bass and crisp vocals. You can listen for yourself with our comparison tool linked below. You can wake up and unlock the phone with an ultrasonic under-display fingerprint reader, and it's reliable and snappy. The Xiaomi 17 Pro Max offers 512 gigs of base storage, or you could get it with a terabyte on board. The interface of the 17 Pro Max is Xiaomi's latest HyperOS 3.0 based on Android 16. If you've used a recent version of HyperOS, you'll feel right at home, as the visual changes are pretty subtle. However, Xiaomi does claim that the animations are smoother now. The most noticeable UI-related change is the Super Island, which is something like the dynamic island you see on the iPhones. It gives you contextual information and quick access to certain supported apps that are running in the background. Xiaomi has improved its connectivity features as well. Previously, you could only share things like files with other Xiaomi devices logged into the same Xiaomi account. But now there's support for sharing with non-Xiaomi devices too. Of course, as we're reviewing the Chinese version of the Xiaomi 17 Pro Max, there are some China-only apps here, which you wouldn't find on a global version. Also, the phone only has English and Chinese languages, and you don't get things like the Google Discover feed, location history in Google Maps, quick share between phones, Android Auto, or voice activation for the Google Assistant. But still, other than that, there is compatibility here with Google services. You can easily get the Play Store and use it to download all the other apps you're used to. Google Gemini, Google Wallet, and Google Maps work fine for the most part, and there are even tutorials online on how to enable Circle to Search. So at the end of the day, you can have something similar to what you may be used to here in the West, but you need to set it up, and some features may be missing here and there. The Xiaomi 17 Pro Max is one of the first phones to come out with the new generation chipset from Qualcomm, the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. It promises much improved CPU and graphics performance, including ray tracing, plus better AI processing and more power efficiency. In benchmarks, we do see some significant improvements over flagships running on a Snapdragon 8 Elite, but we expected the gap to be larger, and it actually is larger in other new flagships running on the same new hardware. Still, while it seems that the 17 Pro Max isn't performing to its full potential, this is one of the most powerful flagships out there right now. The thermal management here is about what we'd expect from a flagship. We observed significant thermal throttling during our prolonged CPU stress test, to about 50% of peak performance. On to battery life, and the Xiaomi 17 Pro Max should be great thanks to its huge 7500 mAh battery. Indeed, the battery life here is excellent, some of the best around. The phone earned an active use score of 20 hours and 50 minutes, which is very impressive. The 17 Pro Max supports 100-watt wired charging, either with Xiaomi's proprietary charger or power delivery charger with PPS. The charging speed is quite fast, especially considering the size of the battery. With the Xiaomi charger that came with the phone, a full charge took only 39 minutes, and charging with the standard USB power delivery charger was only marginally slower. There's also support for 50-watt fast wireless charging here, though it's only with a proprietary charger. Now we have the cameras. The rear setup includes a main cam, a 5x telephoto zoom, and an ultrawide with autofocus, all at 50 megapixels. The overall quality of the main camera during the day is great. You get sharp, detailed photos with no noise and a wide dynamic range, and the performance indoors is pretty solid too. However, the post-processing has its quirks. Some shots could use more contrast, especially in more challenging lighting conditions. Additionally, there's a strong tendency to oversaturate the reds, and sometimes the greens. The phone does a good job at rendering skin textures, and the defocus backgrounds in portrait mode are convincing looking too. 2x digital zoom from the main cam looks nice, with a minimal loss of sharpness. Some objects with fine detail in the distance may appear fuzzier, but that's par for the course. The main camera's low-light photos come out excellent. The phone exposes well and delivers well-developed shadows and highlights, and absolutely no noise. The contrast could be a bit higher in some of the photos, but that's just a nitpick. The telephoto camera matches the main camera's processing overall, but fails to impress when it comes to quality in general. Many of the photos we took were either blurry or fuzzy, suggesting that the OIS is not doing a great job. Shots of people look great though, and the portrait mode again shows some excellent subject separation from the artificially defocused background. The telephoto camera can also focus as close as 30 centimeters, and it's able to snap some nice looking close-ups. The 10x crops from the 5x telephoto are a bit fuzzier, but they generally look okay. The 5x telephoto shots at night won't hold up to close scrutiny, as they're not terribly sharp. However, they have good dynamic range, and a clean rendition with no noise. The color temperature is once again too warm. The ultra-wide camera is more than decent during the day. Sharpness and detail are just okay, but the dynamic range is pretty wide, maybe even above average for an ultra-wide shooter. However, with a focal length of 17mm, the field of view is not as wide as expected. It's not so far away from the main cameras, which is already on the wider side. The ultra-wide camera's low-light photos are not very competitive. They lack fine detail, sharpness isn't up to snuff, even for an ultra-wide, and the color temperature is off, just like on the other two cameras. This year, Xiaomi has included a new 50-megapixel front-facing camera for selfies. The subject's face is always well exposed, and there's plenty of detail. But why use the front-facing camera when you can use the display on the back to take selfies with the rear cameras? These shots taken with the main camera come out excellent, with great detail and a naturally blurred background. 2x zoom shots look good too, if you want a closer framing. We're not too impressed by the ultrawide camera's quality in this use case, but it will get the job done if you want to fit more people into the frame. The Pro Max supports up to 8K video recording with this main camera, while the rest of the cameras cap at 4K at 60fps. And you can shoot in 10-bit log if you want to do the color grading yourself. The main camera's performance with video capture is pretty solid, in both the day and the night. In both cases you get excellent fine detail, good sharpness, great dynamic range, and virtually no noise, even in the low-light video. We only wish the stabilization was a bit better. The 5x zoom video looks okay. Stabilization is good, but the clips have lower contrast than expected, and can be generally fuzzy. We are happy with how the low-light footage comes out though. The autofocus is not the best, but the dynamic range is great. The daylight ultrawide video is generally good, as far as ultrawides go. There's adequate sharpness and contrast. But the low-light ultrawide video is hard to recommend. It has limited dynamic range, and is noisy and way too soft. Video stabilization when walking is great, in contrast to the somewhat shaky footage you get when shooting handheld from a stationary position, or when panning. So there you have it, the Xiaomi 17 Pro Max. It ticks a lot of boxes, with its solid build quality, amazing speakers, and great displays, including that unique second screen. The chipset is cutting edge, and you get both excellent battery life and super fast charging. Our only issue is with the cameras. Sure, they're good, but they're not as good as the competition. So if you're after the ultimate camera phone, you might be better off elsewhere. But if that's not your priority, the Xiaomi 17 Pro Max is a well-rounded flagship that's really worth its salt. So much so that it might be one of the few phones worth gray importing, if you don't want to wait around and see if there's going to be a global version. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're looking for alternatives, you can check out our reviews of the iPhone 17 Pro Max and the Oppo Find X9 Pro. Let us know what you think, and I'll see you on the next one.